welcome to Pop Culture Problems, the best show in the entire universe, as confirmed by every single person that I've ever talked to. I've never talked to a single person that has had anything negative to say about the show. Our co-host, John Oderman here, he thinks the show is great too, and he's never heard anything bad about the show either.
I haven't.
I've looked on social media, I've gotten emails, all the fan letters. Nothing in the world has ever said that this show is bad, and I will refuse to believe it. If you have anything negative to say about the show, you can just go shove it.
Did we hire the Micro Machines guy? Jeez.
Well, you know what? The Micro Machines guy,
he told me it was an
he
awesome
loves the show too.
Yeah.
Thinks it's awesome. Every single person I ever talked to thinks it's awesome. And it's not confirmation bias. I mean, this isn't me, being centered in a world that only I believe and I reject everything that, is not within my reality. Is it?
I think it might be.
Question mark?
I think it might be.
We're talking about confirmation bias today and how media, friends, the internet lead us to believe that we're the masters of our own thought and nothing that we say could possibly be wrong. Are we, is confirmation bias the death of society? Is it the end? This is the end time?
I think it's more and more prevalent as we go on, and it's kind of scary. How people, they live in an echo chamber and they love living in that chamber. They love the feel of the vibrations of the echoes coming off those walls in their echo
that
chamber.
sounds delicious. I'd like to move there.
Oh.
Where is this chamber of echo?
Yeah.
I think that there's several facets to this. I want to talk about this in a decade stance, in a generational stance. Let's talk about the 1920s.
Okay.
Before television. I don't know, when did radio start?
My favorite decade to have lived in.
When did radio start? Did we have
probably around then, maybe?
Let's talk about the 1850s, when the only source of news you could get was from a guy on a horseback delivering you a letter.
Okay.
All
right.
When even back then, people surrounded themselves with like people. So before the internet, before social media, people surrounded themselves with people who had similar views as them. And whether you're talking about politics in a political party, or whether you're talking about, prohibition and thinking that people shouldn't be drinking, or women's rights, or you have a cause or an initiative, or you just like similar things. People in the saloon in the Wild West playing cards and, spending time with ladies of the night. All the other people they spent time with said, hey, want to play poker and I'm going to go see the missus afters? They all had that same view. Uh-huh. And that was before media. Now...
Yeah, it's skyrocketed.
I mean, it's just... You are hard-pressed to find an opinion that is different than yours. And when
Unless you're really looking.
Well, yeah, and if something does appear that's different than yours, because of the circle that you surround yourself with, you end up getting this kind of massive cult that comes with you to vilify the person who disagreed.
Yes.
You're going to have more people rise up for you to verify your bias than you are going to have that one or two people that disagree with you. And a lot of this is due to social media algorithms and things like that. Your news feed pops up at a social media website, and it's showing you the things that are interesting to you.
Yeah, the things that you've liked, the things that you've clicked. Yeah, because of ad bots and things like that. So that
absolutely.
You're seeing the things that are going to sell you something that you like and agree with, as opposed to challenging your worldview. And that's I think on a smaller degree, the thing that we really struggle with now is only seeing the ideal or idyllic version of something. Like when you go on social media, like when you see pictures of your friend, they're only posting pictures when they're having a good time.
Oh, absolutely.
So you look at your friend's pictures and you're like, geez, my life sucks. Everybody else is having this great time.
You just recently had a child, and you never post any of the pictures of you neglecting her, leaving her in the hot car, not changing her diaper.
And, I actually had somebody ask me, they said, hey, does that kid ever cry? Because every picture I see on Facebook, they look like an absolute angel.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, no, she definitely cries. And so my wife actually posted a picture, and she said of the kid shortly after she had cried, and said, hey, I just wanted to share this picture because the baby does cry, and she cried to the extent where I had to pull over because she wanted to be comforted by her mother.
Wow. Okay.
But anyway, back to confirmation bias. I think it's one of those things where we live in this world where we don't want to be, or we're not confronted with things that make us uncomfortable, and we're not really seeking it out anymore. And I think back in the day, feeling uncomfortable and being challenged was something that people sought out and valued. And more, we're taking the value of disagreement or feeling uncomfortable out of the equation.
We're not growing and learning as individuals, for sure. As a society...
Well, I'm growing as an individual. Like, physically, I'm growing.
I'm
outward.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all gut.
Yes.
It's all... I got like a 6 keg. It's just getting larger. But, I think that it's bad for society and it's bad for individuals when they don't have those conversations and they can't have civil discourse and they can't disagree but agree to disagree, and they can't get to those points. And a lot of times when you don't hear opposing viewpoints, you are completely sheltered from the world. I'll give an example, and I'm not going to speak about anything specifically, but let's just talk about cults. When you were in a cult, oftentimes you were sheltered from the outside world, and you were sheltered from outside opinions, and you were sheltered from opinions that do not meet the specifications of the cult's beliefs or do not meet the specifications of the cult leader, and you never hear anything bad. And so when that happens, you don't see the negativity that is involved with the cult. And I'm not going to say anything specific, but let's take a cult that is not good. Because you could call anything a cult. I could say, we like movies. We're a movie cult. We're, nerds. We're in the nerd cult. Not all social groups are bad. And I think sometimes social groups are called cults and they're not necessarily negative. Let's look at a negative cult where don't drink the Kool-Aid, get out. Okay? That kind of a cult. If you are never exposed to an outside opinion or a difference in opinion, you're really...
You think everybody else is wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you think everybody else is crazy because they're not drinking the Kool-Aid.
Now, there have been studies that have said that when someone disagrees with you, you actually become stronger in your convictions because you become defensive and you do that. I think it comes, and I'm not a psychologist, but I think it comes with quantity. So let's say right now you say football is the best sport ever, right? And I disagree with you. And then this is a real thing. I say, no, not the best sport ever.
See, but why would you disagree with me? Because you hate sports. But I'll go with this hypothetical. Go ahead.
Okay. But, no, I'm saying that you think the sports are great. I'm going to disagree with you. So I say, I disagree with you. You, if I'm the only person that has ever said that, you're going to be like, what's with this guy? No, everybody loves sports.
Yeah.
Now,
sports.
If 99 people come after me and tell you the same thing, at number 100, you might be like, there might be something to this football's not being good thing. You know what I mean? Like, you might have and I think it's that quantity, because I think that defensiveness kicks in and you become just passionate about your viewpoint. But at some point, if you're only hearing the good stuff, it's going to take many people. I think the longer you believe your own bias, the more people it's going to take to convince you otherwise.
Yeah, and I think our culture has gotten to the point where intellectual curiosity isn't as valued as it once was. And intellectual curiosity goes into that challenging your worldview and challenging your thought processes and why do I believe this? Why do I think this? And we've gotten away from that because we just get stuck into this. I'm right, you're wrong if you disagree with me, and we're not going to talk about it. And I think kind of relating it to the theme of this podcast, I think that's something that's fairly prevalent in fandom across the spectrum of there's this one way to interpret it, and if you interpret it this pop culture thing one way or another, you're wrong because you don't interpret it the way I do.
I don't want to talk to you. Yeah. That's why we record these sessions, because we disagree with each other all the time, but because we're in a public forum, because we're recording ourselves and we're knowing that it's going to go online,
we were a little bit more civil. If we didn't have the microphones, one of us would be dead. Because that's how strongly we disagree.
I'm glad we have these microphones.
I
do have my switchblade at the ready, though.
Absolutely. Well, I have a katana taped underneath my table here. I'm throwing stars.
Is it in the sheath?
It's like an episode of The Office where Dwight had a katana in the ceiling,
hidden
throwing
throughout
stars
the
in the
office,
filing
yes,
cabinet
yes.
under T for throwing. I think the internet and social media has really screwed us in this regard.
Yes.
They've made it easier for us to have this bias confirmed, but also it's the data that's presented is scary. So they did a study 4 or 5 years ago that related curly fries to geniuses.
Okay.
If you like curly fries, you are more likely a genius. Based on, I think it was Facebook statistics. And this is not to say that if you like the curly fries page, that all of a sudden you instantly have genius cast upon you. It means that the largest group of people on Facebook were the people that like curly fries. There was more people who were geniuses that like the curly fries page than there were groups of geniuses or quantities of geniuses that liked any other page on Facebook.
So that's one of those. Is the saying correlation is not causation?
I think something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that where like you take this totally unrelated item and you relate it to something, and you paint this group with a broad brush based on this similarity.
But it's not as simple as that, because I think that statistic and that study they did was really confirmation of confirmation bias.
Yes,
because
the person the person was looking for something.
Well, the person that initially created the page, and I don't have the study at the ready and off the top of my head, it's years ago, but as I remember, they were thinking, the likelihood that the person who created this page liked curly fries, but was also a genius. And the people that were friends with this person, because you surround yourself with like people,
yeah.
He was probably an intelligent person surrounding himself with other intelligent people. He created the page, and friends liked his page because, well, they want to support him and those things, and they were also geniuses. And then their friends, and this kind of converged into people who were in the same social group as the original creator, and the subsequent social groups, and that rippling out happened to be smarter individuals.
How'd they quantify the genius level intellect?
I don't know that data. I don't know. I'm sure it's something that they collected, was manipulated, or they tracked it somehow. And I don't know if it was the type of degree you have, or maybe there was
like
some
level
IQ
of
test.
education.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, I bring it up just because it's such an interesting facet of that data. I think there was one of the big box stores was alerted, sent ads to a girl who was pregnant, she was 16 or so, and the ads were sent to her before she told her parents she was pregnant because of the types of data they collect.
Yep,
They said,
yep.
we're going to, on a scale, give you a certain amount of
And that's
points.
creepy.
Yeah, we're going to give you a certain amount of points for buying a purse that could be as big enough to hold a diaper. Or diaper bag, and they're going to give you points for certain vitamins, and those collectively pinpointed that she was pregnant. And so that's how they aggregate the data and show you what you believe in and those types of things. If you were to create 2 different social media accounts, and you were to only friend certain types of friends in one account and certain types of friends in the other account, you'd be surprised at the different types of news feeds that you get.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah, it's really interesting about how certain things that you like and certain pages and certain things will then just kind of ripple and give you a different experience.
So, like, if I eliminated you as a friend on Facebook, I wouldn't get as much brony stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely, no brony ads at all. That was a decent documentary. My Little Brony. That was good. It was interesting. It tells you about different. Here, let's talk about confirmation bias there. That's a good thing. This is a like-minded group of individuals, middle-aged men who like My Little Pony. And when they go to a conference,
there's a lot of people that look at that group and say, ugh, creepy
You guys
perverted
are
guys that like little kids
Yeah.
shows and whatever. And they think they're, a bunch of pedophiles or something. Or there's groups that think that they're creepy, or they think that they're weird. And within their social group, there is nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not saying that they're bad, but they're not surrounding themselves with that negative opinion. So I can see the benefit of this confirmation bias in a way where you feel accepting within your own social group and your own peer circle. But what happens if it is wrong?
Yeah, exactly. Because that is the thing where, like, with confirmation bias becomes a problem, because if you are surrounding yourself with like-minded people and you get into some stuff that isn't right,
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, like, well, everybody else is weird because they don't like, killing people and eating flesh.
Exactly. So if I have if I have a brony conference,
Yeah.
and they also have a cannibal conference in Ballroom B in the same hotel, just because the bronies aren't hurting anybody, and just because the cannibals are, doesn't mean that the confirmation bias. It doesn't mean it's good or bad in either of those situations. They're different for each area. But that's where we have to be, I think, more open-minded and err on the side of let's get differing opinions, and let's not only surround ourselves with the things that we like. Because I'm sure if the bronies, as an example, heard more negativity about themselves and they got more of the feedback, what could they do with that? They could educate the people
and
who
how,
are naysayers.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess, I mean, I don't want this to be taken the wrong way or sound bad, but
It will be.
Okay. But do you think we've reached like peak acceptance to the point where like you want to accept people for who they are, but like I almost feel like we've tiptoed up to like a pretty dangerous area where we're saying, hey, that's just them being them. Just accept it.
Well,
You know what I
but
mean?
where's
And-
the
and-
line?
Yeah, and see, and I guess like when it comes to confirmation bias, like where is that line where you're like, you know what, you need to pump the brakes here a little bit and look at your worldview and maybe challenge it. Like, I mean, how do you get that through to people that, hey, constantly challenge your worldview? And because like sometimes you could ask somebody to challenge your worldview and you could be seen as, being prejudiced or hateful or something like that.
Well, I would say err on the side of always challenging your worldview. You have to be when we talk about anything. I'm gonna use a more hot topic button issue because again it's something to illustrate my point. Like when we talk about religion, if someone will denounce their religion or faith, if that's something you feel strongly about is a certain religion or certain faith, if you will denounce it because one person said something that may or may not contradict something that you thought may or may not be true, then your faith isn't strong enough.
Yeah.
One of my favorite comedians is Jon Stewart because he says some very wise things sometimes amongst his comedy, and he said that if you're, I'm paraphrasing, I'm trying to remember it, but basically the gist of his statement was that if your convictions are so easily swayed or shaken by a differing viewpoint, they're not convictions, they're hobbies.
Yeah, okay,
And
sure.
if you feel strongly that bronies are the way of the future, you should be open to hearing the negative opinion,
And trying to
hearing
explain
a
to people
different
why,
point of view
yeah.
and explain to them. But you also need to take it with a grain of salt. Let the water roll off your back and say, look, this is who I am, and I'm going to try to educate you. And even the cannibals. You know what? Here's the thing. Don't just surround yourself. If they had a bit of altering opinions, they might come to say, ooh, I'm going to get the mad cow of humans by eating people. I'm going to get a diseased brain. Or I'm going to have a negative effect. Or, ooh, I found that it's not morally acceptable. And whose compass is that on? But also, if they're that strong in their convictions, they're not going to change either.
Well, but I'm actually kind of, I'm willing to challenge my worldview to the degree of, I kind of want to know why.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
what got you to that point.
What got you to that point? Because let's say that, okay, we decide that that's morally objectionable, and I think it is. But like, let's say that that wasn't a determined fact before the cannibals came into vogue, and it's this big, huge movement, and you kind of need to understand these people before you can help them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you have to challenge your own worldview of like, hey, that's morally objectionable. Well, that the person that you're talking to might not know that it's morally objectionable, but you have to have that two-way conversation where you can talk to them about why they're doing that, and you can talk to them about why you think it's morally objectionable, and vice versa.
Yeah, and in that,
and if you're not having that conversation, we're not progressing.
Exactly, and in that particular conversation, bring a friend or two so that you're not eaten.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yes.
Protect yourself.
Yeah.
Be cautious. But again, where is the moral code? Where is the ethics at? For that person, they might live in a world where they have not been taught right from wrong in the same way that somebody else would. So for me saying, killing and eating somebody is bad, that's obvious. It's hard. Or
they're looking at it from a different moral angle. Like you might be looking at it morally from a life, death, value of life standpoint. They might be looking at it from the I don't want my kids to starve.
Well, yeah, and
so I mean, like, there's different angles of morality too. I think people come at it from different perspectives.
Well, but let me get this out, because I don't want to end the episode where it thinks that I'm supporting cannibal killers. But if someone does not have the same moral compass, it's based on your opinion. I mean, you have different life skills, so even if they have, it's hard for me to say or justify somebody ever killing and eating somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you don't know that their life experiences, or you don't know if they're starving, or you don't know any of those things. If they're just doing it for fun, the chances of them stopping doing it, if all they ever hear is eat them, put some Tabasco sauce on it, deep fry it, sprinkle a little salt, like, if they're not going to ever stop, you know? And so as an individual who has beliefs, you're never going to get them that point. But also, going back to that, sticking to your values, if those people are posting on your wall or your newsfeed, why don't you try eating some people? You shouldn't be so easily swayed either. And so it's hard for me, because I'm saying don't be swayed. So, but I'm also saying open yourself up to criticism. You have to make your own decisions in your life. Uh-huh. So if a person who's a cannibalistic killer, if I say, hey, don't do that, and here's the reasons why, and they say, nope, I'm strong in my convictions, okay, we have a judicial system in jail for you. Yeah. We have this moral compass that has been set up by law. Bronies are not hurting anyone by law, but you are. Then that has to be taken care of there. But still stick to your convictions. If that is what you truly believe, I mean, I shouldn't be able to sway you. You have to come to that decision on yourself, or you're not truly going to believe, And so I just hope that there is not as many cannibalistic killers out there as we're talking about. It makes it seem like the world is so dark. I feel like we've
really
scary.
gone off the rails there.
I think we did.
Yes, we did. But I think it was a fair, extreme example.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing: there are people from all ends of the spectrum. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say that bronies are as polar opposite from cannibalistic killers as you can get. So there's the spectrum, and when we look at when that's the black and the white, and you look at all the gray in between, I think we've covered the spectrum.
But let's say that there's a guy that does a Facebook study, and the majority of cannibalistic killers happen to be bronies.
Oh.
Just like the guy with curly fries and geniuses.
Well, you never know. I think you should work on that study.
But going back to that though, I mean I think that's a really important example, because there's so many times where I'll have a friend that I know has a particular viewpoint or political stance or this or that, and without exception, most of the time on Facebook, you see them posting things that agree with them. They don't. You don't see people posting things that, hey, this really challenged my view on this.
Well, and also, I think that the widespread false statistics and fake news that are out there are part of the problem. Let's say that the 2020 election, we are going to elect John Oderman president, and running against him is Josh Nichols. Okay, we're going to run for president, and we're going strong. Okay, when we look at that example, if friends in a certain group are going to vote for Team Oderman 2020, and they're on Facebook, all of a sudden you start seeing things like, did you know that Josh Nichols is a cannibalistic killer? 37% of people agree that, what?
Yeah,
Where did you get that from? And because those people in that demographic do not want to vote for Josh Nichols, they're going to say, oh, did you hear that Josh Nichols eats people? They start kind of spreading things that aren't necessarily even true. And I'm not saying that all the things
you're not saying you're not a cannibalistic killer.
I'm not saying that. But it's not to say that everything out there is false. But when you believe in something, you're more likely to believe something that is false or not true and not fact check it yourself.
Yes.
You are likely not going on Google and saying, I wonder if that's true.
See, and that is to me, at the very core of what we're talking about here with confirmation bias, where you are so comfortable and so confident that you are right that you're not willing or able to even challenge your belief.
Yeah.
And we've even seen this with science, where science has kind of almost gotten to the point where science used to be about questioning and getting more answers, and there wasn't a problem with questioning this or that. But now, like, even scientists have gotten to the point where, like, they have such confirmation bias that they're almost, I think, uncomfortable with, like, a peer review that might not agree.
Oh, absolutely. It's so weird to me how this gets into not even confirmation bias. It gets into data manipulation.
Yeah.
Because you'll find 20 studies, 10 on each side, saying the polar opposite of each other. And it's like, those are the articles you share. A lot of it comes down to even how we search on the internet. If you go on the internet, and what do you usually search for? So let's say, for instance, that I tell you a fact. Bananas are the direct link to cancer. If you eat one banana in your lifetime, you are going to get cancer. What do? You go on Google
and you say,
and you
bananas.
search, do banana gives you cancer.
Yeah.
You don't say, the data against banana cancer link.
Yes, exactly.
You ask the question.
Yeah.
You ask an affirmative.
Yeah, you're not looking for the data.
Cancer?
You're not looking
No,
for the data.
You're looking for a confirmation of the bias that you just read. Somebody said this, and you're looking for that. So when you search, you don't put in the negating term. You put in the positive term.
Yeah.
And you only confirm what you suspected. If I look up a thing and says, did John Oderman really ride a pony into the sunset and go to the Brody conference? I'm going to say,
yes.
Pictures of John Oderman going to Brody conference. I'm not going to even question whether or not you went. I'm going to want to see pictures of you on your rainbow pony. And that's the issue. We even with their search engines now, they're not doing a bad job even providing the content. We're doing a bad job asking for the content.
And when we get the content, consuming the content.
Oh, absolutely.
Or we're just reading the headline, maybe the first couple paragraphs.
And share.
Yes.
Share the infographics, share the photos, share the whatever,
Yes.
It's
because
not,
it agrees with my worldview.
and then other people share that, and it just goes, it's just a ripple.
That all being said, though, I've never heard anybody say that this is a bad show.
No. Because nobody listens.
And nobody talks to us or gives us feedback.
Nobody replies to anything. Nobody posts anything. How could we possibly be a bad show? We're Midland at worst.
At worst.
At worst.
At the absolute worst.
Because nobody has said otherwise.
So, that might be confirmation bias, but it's a confirmation bias that I'm comfortable with.
I'm just saying that our show is the best on the planet, and if you're curious,
you said universe earlier.
Oh well, it goes without saying. If it's a part of the best, it's the best in the universe, then it's the best on the planet too.
Okay, yeah.
It trickles down.
Great point.
Trickle down effect. And so, it's the best show in the universe on the planet. And if you need confirmation of that, just go search. Just say, "Is Pop Culture Problems the best show in the universe?" And I'm sure the Wikipedia article that I wrote to say as much will pop up. And it'll probably have statistical data on there saying
one
yes.
of one results.
Yeah, exactly. One of one results. And confirming exactly what was said. John,
Not only is this the best show, but we're the best hosts. And we also have the best listeners.
We do. And it'd be nice to hear from them every once in a while.
Why don't you go ahead and comment on some of the stuff we do, people out there, and confirm our suspicion that we are all, collectively, the pop culture nation, the best thing in the universe.
The pop culture nation.
Pop culture
I
nation.
love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time on Pop Culture Nation? ?